Two pretty girls.
All right.
One old man.
Here we Well, here we are. We are doing another interview for Faith, Family, and Festival. Can you say those are three things that you love?
Can't beat that.
Can't beat it. This is Mr. Joe Newsome. And Mr. Joe, I don't know who doesn't know you. You have been around Hillsborough County, Plant City, the state of Florida.
That means I'm old, doesn't it?
For many years.
I am.
Well, we won't say
born
you're
and
old. We'll just
born
say
and raised here.
You're seasoned.
Community's been very, very good to me.
Yes.
Very good.
Born and raised right here in Plant City?
Strawberry Patch.
Really?
I was born at home.
Yes.
Cork. Yep. Doctor spent all night in the house and delivered me about 5 o'clock in the morning.
Really? Now, how many brothers and sisters do you have?
One sister.
One sister.
Sister Barbara McIntosh, a teacher.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you have a lot of cousins.
A jillion.
A jillion cousins.
Yeah, there was my dad's family. There was 4 children,
Mm-hmm.
and on my mother's side, though, there was 7. So I have a lot of cousins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's special to you about Plant City, since you've just been here forever?
Well, I don't like veneer, and most of the people I know in Plant City are genuine.
Mm-hmm.
They're hardworking people.
Yeah.
I've had a great career between the drugstore, the hospital, the festival, the school board, and especially when I was on the school board.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our outstanding leaders in the school district from Plant City.
Yeah.
It made me feel very good. But I could just name
Mm-hmm.
just some people who you never saw their name in the paper,
Mm-hmm.
but they were just stalwarts in this community.
Mm-hmm.
I've told some people I never heard my dad say, and we were relatively poor, farmers, struggling, but I never heard my dad say that we deserve what somebody else had.
Mm-mm.
We were going to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to try to do better. My dad was not a man to tell you he loved you a lot, but he showed it every minute. At 10 years old, I could have run this farm, and he treated me like a grown man at that age. And it was a wonderful, wonderful relationship.
And that seems like that's what's missing a lot now,
Well,
is people feel entitled now, and
see,
they don't work as hard.
I know everything changes, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, some people used to walk uphill both ways to school in the snow. You know, I never did that.
Yeah.
But it was tough. I was picking strawberries at 7 years old. But I think back on my life, and we lived in an unpainted house with an outdoor job.
Yeah.
Not many people know about outdoor jobs with a black snake that's got his little tongue. You know, I know all about that. That was, as I look back, that made me appreciate today. But some of the greatest times of my life that we're missing now, and this is family, was around that little supper table that there was just room for 4 people. Barbara, my sister, me, and Mom and Dad. But we talked about everything.
And that's something that's missing today. From
And,
a lot
you
of
know, I never came home from school, but at least Mother was there. Daddy was there unless he'd go to the market or have some other business. And at 10 years old, I wouldn't have cared if I never grew up.
Yeah.
And how I went to pharmacy school, I never worked a day of my life in the drugstore.
So what type of farming did your daddy do when you were young?
We started out the year with cabbage. Daddy always said it was too long between one strawberry crop and another. In those days, we didn't have Raybirds, we had overhead irrigation. We didn't have plastic, so we had to hoe those things and bust the meadows, and you know, it was a constant job. And if, let's say, we hoped then to be picking by Christmas. Now we start earlier, and thank goodness. But you get a heavy frost, and you don't pick your berries for 3 weeks. I remember one night we covered berries. We covered all the berries with paper, and we covered 20 acres of pepper with dirt.
Because back then, like you said, you didn't have
We had
an
no
irrigation
protection,
system.
no. That was the worst looking pepper you ever saw in your life. And, you know, I drove that tractor at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you know, you threw the dirt up there, then you came back and tried to bar it off, hoped you didn't hit the pepper plant, and then you got down there and scratched it out. We scratched dirt for, but back to what my dad did. Dad said there's too far between crops, so we had something growing there all the time. We start out with cabbage. We hope we'll be cutting cabbage by Thanksgiving, and then we hope to be picking strawberries by Christmas. And then we followed that up. My dad kind of became the hot pepper king, finger hot. And so we followed it up with that. And we would do that until on in summer. And that was one of those crops that you couldn't sell it unless they had an order for it. But Daddy hounded them on the market, and he had several buyers that they might call at 3 o'clock and say, we need 200 halves of hot pepper to go in the back of the truck. We got one going to New York, we need it. And Daddy never knew how to say no.
So back then, when you say you had to take them to the market, was it in Tampa you had
Oh,
to go to the
no.
market, or
Well,
Plant City?
we took cabbage to the Tampa market. My daddy hated Tampa market. He didn't like cold weather. And he said that was the coldest place in the world.
Tampa.
Tampa market. But everything else was on the auction block. But we didn't usually go through the auction block because Daddy he knew the people. But the day I was graduating in 1958,
Plant City High School.
Plant City High School, my mother told Daddy the night before, his nickname was Duck. Everybody knew him as D-U-C-K, Duck.
Papa Duck.
Papa Duck. And my mama said, now Duck, Joe's graduating tomorrow night, so we don't want any pepper orders past 12 o'clock. Okay. Well, about 3 o'clock, Daddy's on the market. He calls and he said, we just got to get 200 halves. But because if you didn't help them when they needed it, then because Daddy would sometimes be begging them to put 200 halves on the back of a truck to go to
And he was
New
a
York.
man of his word.
Yeah, he tried to be. I was so tired that night. And that auditorium was not air conditioned. I sat by your aunt, Jackie Parker.
Really?
Oh. And we, you know, when we walked up on the stage, and there was a fan there, it felt so good.
I didn't realize you graduated.
Yeah,
then,
Jackie and I graduated the same year.
Wow.
She sat right by me.
She's a
NP,
beautiful
so
lady.
Newsome Parker. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So what made you want to go to pharmacy school?
Well,
From farming to pharmacy.
well, back then, you know, it was no closed-in tractors. We did a lot of dusting rather than spraying. I had asthma until I'm hoarse today. I'm trying to get over this. I don't have any asthma much now, but a lot of allergies. But and Mom and Dad just thought that was not the way for me to go for health reasons. At about 10 years old, Dr. Pope here in town got me with an allergist in Tampa, and that changed my life. Up to then, I was sick a lot. So I thought I was going to be a dentist, and had been accepted at Florida and Vanderbilt. And didn't have any money. My cousin Harry, who just passed away at 92.
Yeah, sorry to hear about that.
Well, he was ready to go home. He was praying God to take him. He was a fine Christian man.
And his sweet bride's up there waiting on him.
Right. And she died a few months before. Last time I held his hand, I prayed with him, God take him. But we grew orange trees. And, you know, you plant the orange seed, the sour seed, it comes up, gets about the size of a pencil, and you bud it. And I made enough money to go to college that year. My budget was $1,200.
Oh my goodness.
Can you imagine?
No, I wish.
And I gotta say this: my mother and daddy would have gotten me there some way, but I wanted to try to help if I could, and we were able to do that. And then the Lord blessed me greatly. I had like a second daddy at college that I worked for him in the educational library. That's a long story. Had they not done away with the strawberry schools, I probably would be a pharmacist. Because I was a gobbler. And I got transferred to people that we tried to beat every Friday night in football.
Turkey Creek Gobblers.
Gobblers, the Plant City Planters.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I went to Turkey Creek from Cork. I was the last valedictorian that Cork Academy had.
Really?
And my mother had been.
Wow.
Anyway,
Oh.
long story, doesn't matter. But went to Turkey Creek in the 10th grade. And we started in March because strawberry schools, you were out in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that's how we harvest the crop.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have the other countries coming in here that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that gave us a needed hand.
Mm-hmm.
We kids picked the berries.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there to August, and then I went to Plant City, where was a guy named Dick Addicks, who became a dear friend, became Dr. Dick Addicks, who taught over Central Florida.
Mm-hmm.
He called me in, he taught me world history, American history. And he asked me if I could see him after class. Well, I didn't get in trouble at school. I didn't know what did I do wrong. And he said he was going, he asked me what I wanted to do, and I told him. He said, well, I'm going to Gainesville 3 Saturdays. I'd like for you to go up there with me and meet a man that I think will give you a job. He had heard me say, I was trying to make money to go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've worked hard all my life, praise the Lord. I love to work.
Mm-hmm.
It's the hardest thing about old age. Really.
Well, and it seems like that's a secret too. A lot of people that are older, that are with it, with their mind, is they were the hardest workers.
Well, see, I don't know how people think this country's going to survive. The finest computer in the world. I tell Kathy, that's a wonderful lawnmower we got out there in the shed, but it ain't worth a hoot till we get on it. You know, I was raised to work.
Yes.
And so I got a job with this man, and he had some health problems. He lived with his 79 or 80-year-old mother, and I'd go by on my bicycle, and she'd be on the front porch, and I'd be going to where I lived the first year, in a house from Earl Henry.
Mm-hmm.
And
my godfather.
And yeah, we're good friends.
Mm-hmm.
Lost 5 of my dear medical friends in a short period of time.
Mm.
And they called me over the other year and said, we've always had a graduate student live with us, but we'd like for you to live with us, and there will be no charge.
Wow.
You'll live, and I lived like your son. You had to
What
go
a
by the house
blessing.
rules, but the only thing I had to pay from then on was books and tuition. Tuition at the University of Florida was $75 a year, no matter how many hours.
My word.
And I was trying to cram it in. One year I took 21 hours. They'd like to kill me. But anyway, it did more for me than money.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me how to study.
Mm.
You know,
That's important.
and yes, mother and daddy were great. My mother could have gotten a PhD. She was brilliant. They both had all kind of what I call horse sense. I mean, daddy's education was 6th grade at Dover. Probably didn't go half the time, because if you needed to work, you stayed home and worked.
Yeah.
But he had more sense than most of the world.
Right.
Taught me a bunch. I loved him dearly, still do. But anyway, long story short, and then this was just God. Barney, or my daddy won, said Shorty Brown asked, is Joe about ready to intern? And they said, well, we think so. We're not sure. Well, in pharmacy, you could do half the intern before you graduated, the other half. And he said, well, tell him come see me. He hired me. I worked at summer for him. Big pay, $50 a week. Bet I was going to get rich. And then I went back and
You
finished.
could get another degree with $50.
Oh, yeah. Went back and finished, and never worked at but one drugstore, not many pharmacists. And one time I went down to Magnolia because Merle was sick.
Yeah.
And Ray was there. Ray wasn't a pharmacist, one of my dear friends, and he called and said, to Shorty, said, are you and Joe both there? I said, yeah. It was Saturday afternoon. He said, boy, Merle's sick. Can one of you come? And I went down and sat there for 3 or 4 hours. Well, fill prescriptions, you know.
Yeah.
But then I bought half of Shorty, sold me half the business.
Yeah. What year was that it became Brown Newsome Pharmacy? Do you remember what year it
Let me
was?
think a minute. Shorty retired in 85. I sold the store in 95. It was early 70s. Let's say, wait a minute. I went with him in 63. Yeah, it was late 60s or early 70s. But I never worked in any other store.
Yeah.
And we were so blessed. Shorty was a great partner. And you know, like any business, you don't do it by yourself.
Right.
It was my girls. I say my girls affectionately. My thing was when I walked in the morning, I was, "Hey gang, how y'all doing?" And I would go around. Now you're about to get in jail, and I'm about to say, "Stephanie, you all right? Is your day better today?"
Yeah.
I went to each employee.
That's good.
I never liked to say I or mine. It was ours. We were a team. Dottie was with me. Dottie Hudson was there longer than I.
Oh.
She went to work
Sweet
for
lady.
Shorty while.
She never changes.
Oh no, we see her every
Yeah.
often, and sweet as she could be, and she was my tech, and her mother-in-law was Shorty's because we worked every other night, and together. And it's long hours. Drugstores still are, you know. But I could grunt and Dottie do what I wanted, you know. So you know, I had a great career there.
So if you had the pharmacy in the late 60s, you have 3 children.
Dee was
had
born
Dee.
65.
And then Katie was 68.
And they're really 2 years apart because Dee was born right at the end of 65.
Yes.
And then Dennis in 70.
Yeah. So was Katie born whenever you took over or whenever you became a partner?
I don't remember when that happened exactly, Steph.
So you've got 3.
It didn't change anything other than I was really a partner in the profits a few, 2 or 3 years before I actually acquired my half, and then we changed the name. So I'd have to look back on that.
So it seems like along the way, your daddy, your mama, people that have just kind of like given you a pat on the back and helped you along the way. That's the kind of man it seems that you are as well, Mr. Joe. You give people a kind of attaboy, keep going, encouragement, and help people along the way.
I do. I hope I do.
Yeah.
I have, there's 5 or 6 farm boys in this community that are fine Christian boys. And I try to, every chance I get, tell them how proud I am of them. See, I have a real problem with America. It's my background, I know. We don't appreciate our food. Try growing it sometime.
Exactly.
And we don't appreciate good medical care. I've seen it advance so much. We now cure 50% of the cancers, and most of that is early intervention. Now we're doing things with the immune system, and I don't know why I keep reading medicine. I just love it. I get some good letters from Harvard and Cleveland Clinic, and I don't have to take a test on it anymore. I don't even really have to remember it, but we are making great advancements. If I could say one thing to the world, this is the greatest country. Now, that bunch of Washington, I ain't gonna praise them. I hope we can survive them in spite of themselves.
I know.
Sometimes God can take an idiot and make him look good, and I'm praying for that.
We definitely have to be
I mean,
praying.
we've got the foreign policy worries me to death. This country cannot survive without God and the hard work.
That's right.
I never do anything but hard work. Velma always said to me, my dear wife that I lost after 49 years, and I have a wonderful wife now. I've been married 10 years, and she lost her husband after 31. They both would tell me I never learned to play. Well, my play was really driving my dad's tractor.
Yeah.
I loved it. 1950, we got a farmall cub. I was 9 years old. I thought I died and go to heaven. No, I had a great bringing up. You know, we went to Bethany Church. I was at my cousin Harry's funeral a few days ago, and I looked around that church. And it's the kind of people that made America great. They believe in their community. You ask me what about Plant City. One of the great things that have compelled me to this Strawberry Festival is a community thing.
Absolutely.
I see my friends.
Yeah.
When I was on the school board, which I served for 24 years, was greatly blessed.
Yeah.
I had people tell me all the time, I don't go other places. We save our private money and go to the Strawberry Festival because everywhere you look, there's a deputy. We have law and order. We don't put up with any quote crap. You know, you come here, you're gonna behave.
That's right.
We don't have any alcohol. I've tried to instill it. I'm a whole timer now. You know, I'm just going to Meredith, and but we got some good people like you coming along. But we got to hold it. This has been a community, family thing. And you go talk to our concessionaires, and they're some of the finest people in the world. Miss Eleni has been, she's the mama to all of us.
Yeah.
Bless her heart, we love her.
Yeah. And that's what you hear from so many people. For years, I'm blessed to be able to be inside on a lot of different areas with people like you, and then the vendors and the
That's
people
the fun
who come.
part, isn't it?
It is. It's a
It
blast.
drives you,
It
know,
does.
and you know, and I know everything goes up, but we keep it as cheap as we can. Some of them asked me this year, we need to go up on the gate. I said, heavens no. These are tough times. I'm telling you, I got a lot of friends that are struggling. Kathy and I have got some rental houses. We haven't gone up. We could have. They're good people. They, you know, y'all, Stephanie, you walk because you were raised right. Let's don't forget where we came from.
That's right. That's right.
I remember not having anything.
Yeah.
And my uncle Bart, but I didn't know I didn't have anything. I thought I was.
You had what you had because you had what you needed. God
Well,
always provides us what we need, not necessarily what we want.
You know, we just built a new house because I've gone from 60 acres to an acre and a half because instead of planting strawberries out there, we're planting houses. But that's okay with me. Kathy and I got an acre and a half, and I'll just shut the gate and wave at them. But what was I going to tell you?
But I was going to say how being on the inside with so many different things, the festival, that's what people say is they respect it. This is their favorite festival. People love to come here and work in it because they do. They feel safe.
And we got, as you know, 2,500, 3,000 volunteers. That blows people's mind all over the Southeast. A town of round numbers 40,000, and y'all have 550,000 people come to the gates, and you got all those volunteers, and you've had Reba McEntire, and you've had Kenny Rogers, and blah, 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 Taylor Swift. One of the joys, you know, thanks to Mr. Roy Park and then the board let me continue. I've been on the entertainment committee for 40 years. I've stepped down as the chair. They still let me hang around. But what other town have you seen stars come? And you can see them for that price. And we fight that. Now we got we got more high ticket prices this year we've ever had. But when you having to pay acts $500,000,
I know.
you know, well, I want some more Willies. Willie sold out this year, and the rest goes
We
nine.
are praying for Mr. Willie.
That's right. Yes, sir. Send him some more pot. That's okay. You know, Willie, he is a nice guy.
Yeah, I was talking to Mr. Dubb, and I was like, the day that Willie is here, he is 89 years old and coming out with a brand new album.
Right. And he's going his 90th birthday, the 28th of April, something like that, to Texas, to a big party. Listen to this one, Stephen. You know, most of what we do behind the committee, and it's a year's work. It's fun, though. We have a great committee, and you know, if one person thinks we ought to look at this, we look at it. And if that was, you know, maybe we don't like that person, but it's I call it a puzzle. Because we'll sit down and say, this is our lineup. And it seems so good, but that's the day one. And it gets all the pieces. For instance, Willie, you can't get Willie unless you can route him. He's going to be in St. Augustine over that way for 2 shows before ours. But last year, listen to this one. We said, you know, excuse me, Willie's getting old. He's fixing to be 89. And we might not want, you know. And this year, we said, why don't we look at Willie? Well, he's a year older. and it worked out. Yeah. You don't ever know what's going to work out. I mean, we had Garth Brooks because Glenn Campbell wanted out of a contract. And it was early in the year, and we said certainly he had a chance to go across the water. You know, we love him, we'll work with him again. And that gave us a lot for some.
Yeah.
I was at the drugstore, got a call. They got this young kid named Garth Brooks. Y'all interested in him? I called home and said, no, what do you know about Garth Brooks? You know, anyway. But let's see, what were we going to talk about? Faith?
So tell me about when you became a Christian.
I think I was 9 years old. Mm-hmm. I know exactly what it was. I'd been in church. It might have been a little before that. I don't know.
I'm going to sit you up a little bit.
Okay. Am I laying down? All right. Hey, here, I'm back. I thought it was nap time. Hey, my name's Joe, but it ain't mine. I'm still awake.
That's good. Don't fall down.
And I don't have a teleprompter.
No. We get what we get,
yeah,
right?
That's right. Whatever comes out.
That's right.
Yeah, I had gone to church all my life. I guess my mother did something that the Bible says don't do. My dad was not a Christian, but he became a Christian quickly, and that was at Bethany Church by Cork School. My granddaddy helped build that, my granddaddy Booth. Now, we now go to First Baptist Dover, and I went to a lot of revivals there. Back in those days, they'd have 2-week revivals. And Dad and I'd probably go 4 or 5 nights. My mother had a lot of sickness back then. She had a thyroid problem, and it was when we couldn't diagnose very well, didn't have drugs to treat it like we do today, so it was a totally different ballgame. But anyway, I was saved there. I've been in 3 churches my whole life, so when I went to the University of Florida, I went First Baptist, until I moved in with Hazel, whom I call my second daddy, and he was Presbyterian. I was walking to church and he was riding it. And this was funny. At Sunday lunch, he'd say, well, Sport, are they still against sin down there? I said, yeah, they ain't changed a bit, Hazel. We still got to behave. But anyway, the last 2 years I went to Presbyterian church when I was at university and didn't see any difference. Both of them preached the gospel.
And that's what matters.
Yeah, that's what matters. And we get hung up on denominations.
Yeah,
I don't. No.
No, as long as you know Jesus and it's a relationship.
Well, look at read the red letters in the Bible.
That's right.
And it's back to some of what this festival does. Serve mankind.
Yeah.
You know, like our strawberry ball, those young guys are doing a great job with it. We give to the food bank. We do all we can to support the community. It's a community thing.
And that is something that I wish more people knew about the festival.
That's getting out better.
Giving the festival
but it is
to the community that's given to them.
You know, it's just like Mr. Hurley in the Corvette. They don't realize he pays for that. Every penny goes to food bank and whatnot. No, it's a wonderful thing. But back to my faith. My faith's always been, I had some Sunday school teachers that thought I was going to be a preacher. I don't know why, I guess because I could just talk. But I told them God didn't call me. And I really thought I wanted to go back to med school even after I had bought part of the drugstore. Maybe before that. Anyway, I had the money if I mortgaged my house. I have my house paid for. And but God chose to keep me on that corner. And as I look back, I think that's exactly where He wanted me. He blessed me. I was able, hopefully, to bless some people. I was somewhere the other day, and a lady came up to me, and I didn't remember her name. A lady a little older than you, and maybe the age of my wife, I don't know. But she said, I'm 18 years older than Kathy. No, she's just a baby. I'm growing her up. But this lady, she said, "You remember the nights you went down and filled prescriptions for my baby?" And I don't know, and a lot of times you didn't charge us, and I don't know how we'd have made it. I said, well, I'm so glad I could. I said, I don't remember that because I did that a lot. But I told Kathy, and I'm not that wealthy, I'm comfortable. I don't like to give a poor mouth. But I told Kathy, I said, that meant more to me than if she'd give me $1,000.
Well, and it's like you think about how people thought you were going to be a preacher because I taught, but that was your ministry.
I think it was, Stephanie. I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
God closed the door to go to med school. I had told Velma if she was willing to do whatever, that if I could get into South Florida, they only took 25 the first class. And they basically said to me, you're a pharmacist, go back and do your profession, we need pharmacists. But so they were just token it. You know, I could read that. I'm not that stupid. But anyway, and then I had a great career with the hospital. You know, I was president there a while.
What about the new hospital coming up?
Well,
right around your house.
Yeah, I was on my tractor the other day down in Dennis's pasture and looking across and I thought, holy moly, look at that beautiful hospital. Never thought I'd see that here. And that's, when we agreed to, and I wasn't president then because I had more doing I could do because I had the school board and I think I was president of the festival some of that time, president of the hospital. So I just told them I couldn't, and somebody else took over for me. We had some great leaders, and it broke our heart to have to merge with Baker. But insurance companies were not wanting to do business with small hospitals. They were being gobbled up with the biggies. But Baker has been so fair with this community.
Yeah.
They've spent millions.
I think so.
And that all goes back to 1954 when churches and civic leaders were forming the hospital. And it even got so far at one time, had to wait a while, wasn't any money. Stephanie, to show you how tight it was, when I was president, and I'm not using names, but we were the biggest purchaser of drugs from Johnson Drug Company. And the hospital owed them about $100,000. And I called the president down there, who was a dear friend, and I said, look, I'm not guaranteeing this long, but I'm telling you, on my word, the money's coming. The government's, back, even today, if you code something wrong, then it's a fiasco to finally get it. And we finally bought a computer, I remember that, to help us code things. I don't know the details on that, but I know James Farmer, who was our treasurer, who was honest as could be, our bookkeeper and treasurer. And I called James, he said, Joe, the money's coming. And I said to the guy, hey, we're going to pay you. He said, don't worry about it. That's how tight it was. Yeah. We're going to sit on it. And I rode in this community with some other directors, and we were giving $5,000 apiece, challenging our doctors to get to remodel the emergency room. So money was tight. And we saw, and we owed that to a lot of that, to Bill Anderson, who was our CEO, administrator, because he saw what was happening. These big insurance companies, and let me tell you, Steph, I said to the board, look, I don't have any power, but I know these guys well from this insurance company because of the school board. I'd work closely with them. I go down there, and they didn't want to do a contract with us. I go down there, and I walk in, and very cordial, and I told them I was there, and they looked at me, and they said, Joe, you're our dear friend, and we appreciate you coming, but we don't need South Florida Baptist Hospital. They could go to Lakeland or they go to Brethren. And we can't help you, Joe. We don't lie to you. And some of that, you know, is one of the reasons that I sold my drugstore. Number one, I was tired. Number two, I'm a farm boy. Thanks to your brother, we had 50, 60 acres of orange grove. Kenlis, my son, you know. And I love him, you know. Anyway, I was tired. It was, but Donnie had been there forever. Jerry there 25 years. Some of the other girls.
Time for that ministry to close.
Well, yeah, it was hard stuff because we were a family. Yeah. You know, we loved one another. Yeah. We took one of those burdens to heart. Yeah. But it was the best thing. I was worn out. Anyway, I could ramble on and on, but my faith has been a vital part of my life. I'm so proud. You know, I have this belief, only I know if I'm a Christian. I think you are, but that's between you and God.
That's right.
You know, but far as I know, all my kids are Christians.
Yes.
Their mates are Christians.
Yes.
Their children are Christians. The only ones that aren't Christians are those 4 grapes that aren't old enough yet.
They're little.
And I'm praying for them. It's a tough world out there.
And they will be.
They will be. You know, I said the other day, and I don't usually do this, but I stood up at my cousin's funeral when they asked if anybody wanted to say anything. And he was like a brother because I never, but he's double first cousin. Yeah. And he was 10 years older than me and kind of my idol at Bethany. And I stood up, but I said to him, and looking around the sanctuary made me think this, and I've said this many times before, it only takes one generation to lose it.
It's like we need a revival. And
you know what? Somebody was talking to me the other day about what our kids know sexually. And they say they know more in the 4th grade than we knew in the 10th grade. I don't.
It's awful.
It is. And so we better stay close to the Lord. Yeah. I believe in faithful church attendance, but you go to church every Sunday and go to hell. You better know Jesus.
You got to have that. You got to know Him, not know
And you know,
Him.
if the Apostle Paul had a problem, and Paul said he struggled every day with the carnal man against the spiritual man, what in the world about Joe Newsome and all my weaknesses? Paul preached Jesus in jail. Yeah. And was finally killed, you know. But what else in society has lasted 2,000 years, changed the calendar? Everywhere you go in America, there's churches. You know, I don't travel much anymore, but I used to, like in the mountains, you'd see those little white churches over there.
I love the chapels.
Yeah, and so, well, that wasn't a chapel, that was their church, but our chapel's now. Yeah. But faithful people, and you know, I used to say to Velma, what a great woman she was. There's a song they'll know we're Christians by our love. That's the only way they're going to know it.
Yep, that's right. We've got to share it and show it.
We've got to share it and show it. And we got to try to live above where the world lives.
That's right.
Now, I get drugged down in it. You know,
He'll lift you up.
My devotion this morning was about being positive. Yeah. You know. Yeah. But anyway.
So you've mentioned Miss Velma, and you had a long marriage with Miss Velma.
49 years.
Where did y'all meet?
Her dad came to Bethany as our pastor.
Oh, really?
I graduated from college the year she graduated from high school. And that summer I interned with Shorty. I started dating her. And we were married.
And you were, so I'm combining this because I think it's important for a lot of people to know, and generations on, with you had such great work ethics, and you had a long marriage, and you have another long marriage with Precious Kathy. What is the secret to a good, healthy, long marriage?
Yes, ma'am. What else would I have me do? No, Manuel Galeras used to. First of all, you need God in there.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
And you hope you're all on the same page. Manuel always said, and he was such a great guy, it's not 50-50, it's 100-100. And My two wives are 180 degrees apart. I wouldn't have lived with Kathy 20 years ago. No way. I told her that because I was as bullheaded as she is. But age will change a lot of that. You know, it may not matter if that baseboard doesn't get clean before you go to bed. Well, it does with Kathy. If she saw a spot on it, well, I used to
Tell her to come to my house.
I used to be that way, you know.
Yeah.
But you kind of learn, and it's. I think about the time we learn how to live, God takes us to heaven. But no, I have no. Yeah, I hear these people say, if I did life over again, I wouldn't change anything. I think that's probably a bunch of bull.
There's a lot of things I would.
Well, I think I would, you know.
Because I'm wiser now than I was.
Yeah, sure. The living should do that to
Yeah.
you. And that's what we got to instill into our children.
Right.
But if you instill in your child that the world owes it to you. You know, my daddy had a black belt and a cedar chest. You know, I was at a school board one night and they were talking about if you beat a child's butt, it'll destroy their ego. I said, y'all crazy, I wouldn't even have an ego. You ain't lying.
My mama would get us on that bed, turn.
Son, my daddy could straighten my views out. And you know what? This is so important. I think it's still true. What was right was what Mom and Daddy said. Even more than what the preacher said. And I had some great Sunday school teachers. I had some great school teachers. And I was one of those kids that didn't necessarily need that because I had a strong home.
And that is
But
what's missing today.
Yeah, and so, and now,
family unit strong.
right, and we're expected teachers to do, you know, God had three institutions: family, church, school, government. Well, but if you don't have the family, the church can support it, the school can support it. I mean, they want no air-conditioned tractors, and you was asking me about my daddy, what we grew. Well, on top of that, we grew enough strawberry plants because we could grow them then, different varieties. That Daddy wanted to not have anything in. He had everything paid for in his because we'd sold enough plants. Well, you ought to try picking grass-sized strawberry plants, put in a bucket, took the other row in 95-degree weather. And Daddy says, you better get that row today. And Barbara and I'd goof around sometimes and then really have to get on with it. You know, but anyway, no, I had the fairest mom and dad in the world. But my faith, Stephanie, I don't want you to see my sins on the wall.
No.
You wouldn't like me. But, you know, I battled, you know.
I'm not throwing any stones.
No, me either. And I'm learning. You know, like Jesus, the woman at the well, he didn't tell her how sorry she was. He let her know he knew about her. And he said, go and sin no more. The greatest sins, I think, of a Baptist church, and I can pick on us Baptists, gossip and judgmental.
Absolutely. That's been my biggest thing.
If I could keep Joe straight, and I do everything, but Kathy's a strong-willed person. And I tell her, and she's a strong Christian as anybody. But you know, Jesus says, if I don't forgive you, he won't forgive me.
That's right.
And if he doesn't forgive me, I'm in deep trouble.
Yeah.
You know.
So I've got to forgive others.
Yeah,
so
you know.
I can be forgiven.
You know, it's like I used to tell my girls in the drugstore. Are we going too long?
We're fine. We'll
okay, I wish so.
Soon.
I used to tell
we could talk for hours.
We could. You know, I told the
girls at the drugstore.
Well, but I told the girls down at McClendon the other day, Mr. McClendon's daughter that really works her behind off and runs that place. Well, I can't think of her name right. I said, I like to talk to you because there's not many good old country girls that they understand me, you know. They don't understand that world I grew up in.
Yeah.
But,
well, you mentioned strawberries. So let's come back to the strawberry festival.
I remember missionaries that got that big.
Oh, my.
Got a nickel a quart for picking them.
And now they're big.
Oh, yeah.
So what are you looking forward to this year at the festival?
Oh, I always pray for good weather. I tell Lord, here I am again. And I'm begging and I'm selfish, but would you give us good weather? Would you give us safety above everything? Would our vendors make some money? Would everybody have a good time and see their friends? And maybe I shouldn't say this. I don't know where this is going out to, but I don't care. You know me, I'll tell it like I see it. This has been a Christian organization a long, long time. Now, we don't advertise that, but we, you know, I learned so much when I came on this board. And I was so fortunate. I was only an associate for a year and a half. And it was just timing, wasn't joke. But there were some great people. This festival never borrowed any money. You know, and every other fair you know, the government supports them a lot. And we
God has blessed the Strawberry
Oh, has he ever? And I'm not taking away from anybody else now. But Paul Davis has done such a job. And I'm praying for Kyle.
He's going to do great.
Kyle, he'll do a great job. You know, they both get Christian men. They're hometown people. They relate to people. Everybody in Plant City has always liked the festival. I think our image is better now. And it's some of what you were saying, what we give back. We've been cautious with that because you don't want everybody come and want to dip their bucket,
that's understandable.
ladle in the bucket, you know. So we have to, and we now have a committee that, you know, we try to get X number of dollars that we give back to the community. But I pray for health, safety, our vendors. A lot of them, like me, are getting older. They're a family. You talk about, they all just love Miss Ellie.
And that's one thing Miss Eleni does is they have Bible study here every
She's
morning.
been the Christian matriarch.
Every morning they have Bible study.
Oh, I know that.
And before every meeting we pray.
Yeah, and we do. And you know, we don't flaunt that. We need God's guidance. And I have said to the board, because you know how mouthy I am, I'll say it if I think it. I told them now that I'm emeritus. If I make a motion, just ignore it. You know, if I vote, just ignore it, because I can still talk. But I told them, let's give God the credit.
That's right.
No other fair was just sandwiched in between COVID. We just got one off. Terrible year. We just got the next one open. And we didn't have entertainment. They had just got those checks from the government, and they came here and spent a bunch of it. No, people don't realize every penny we make goes back at you. I mean, we're going to double your salary next year.
From nothing to nothing.
They're going to double mine too, you know, 42 years. But it's been such a wonderful part of our life. You know, Daddy used to give me $5 come to the festival. Me and Max Tate, my preacher's son. And he would say, boy, I don't want to catch you out in front of them girly shows. And you better not be gambling. But $5 now. And I think a hot dog this year is going to be $8.
That's crazy.
So, but you go to the grocery store, you know, that's a tough life. A lot of those people are just family people, our concessionaires. Now, over in the Midway, that's with the shows. But we've had great concessionaires. We've just, I wish I could just name a bunch of the entertainers that we've had. I grew up with my hand on the back of a radio, so Dad and I could hear the Grand Ole Opry. Hear Hank Williams and all those guys. So I've loved it. And through Roy Park, you know, he made me an integral part. And I've talked to some great people. Don't know them, but some of them know my name, a few, but that doesn't matter. But it's been a great experience that I didn't think a little old Plant City boy could ever, you know. And I'll have to say this, 99.9% of the entertainers are great people. We've had a few bad road managers, but you just let them know who's boss. But we have struggled to keep the costs down as much as we can because I told the young guys the other day, and I told them about the outhouse. This is an entertainment committee. I said, y'all know anything about that outhouse with a black stick up there with his little red tongue. I called him Red Tongue. And He lived there, you know. And I went there a bunch. But I said, this is still a
sit
poor
back
town.
some more so
Okay,
we can see ya.
this is couches. Okay, I'm setting up proper now. I'm right there. This is not a rich town.
Right.
I mean,
we're rich in our heart.
Well, yeah, I had a guy in Sunday school class, Hurley Brown. I appreciate this. I'd never heard it. He said, "We weren't poor. We were just broke, but we had loving families. We had a house to sleep in that had a tin roof, and you could sleep like a baby, and food, and loving mother and daddy, and good neighbors. I couldn't have had a better life.
Yeah.
No better place to raise your family than on a farm. Now, we've lost that in America. I think only 2% of the people now, because of advancements. And, you know, your brother just got back from Washington trying to help in some of this mess with Mexico and all that stuff. But look at the fertile land we got around here. They should have picked missionaries now, Stephanie. I ain't lying there about that big. And it's April, and it's hot as blue blazes. And you got to pick your behind off to pick 100 quarts a day, and you made $5.
Man.
And my daddy was so smart, he would say, he always called me a kid. He'd say, "Kid," and he had to buy my groceries and all that anyway. He'd say, "Kid, if you leave the field," in other words, if I wouldn't stop and talk with him, I keep going down my road, I'm going to give you $1 a quart today. Pick my
So you
behind.
like to talk back then too, huh?
Huh?
You like to talk back
I
then
always
too?
have, I guess. I
Well,
can talk no stuff, I guess.
Before we go, because I could talk all day
You
long with
can.
you, Mr. Joe, because kindred spirits, we can talk all day long. But I have a question.
True or false, multiple choice.
Nope.
Oh,
nope.
God. Written, I always hated
I
written.
text a child of yours, and so
Oh.
the question is, who's your favorite child?
I got 3 of them. A guy tried to make me tell him that. I can honestly tell you, I don't. I love them all dearly. They have made me involved so proud.
Oh,
And
you do. Nice man.
I can't be any happier than my saddest child. When I just heard that Kelly Jo has lupus, my granddaughter, you know, just broke my heart. I said,
She's
"Lord,
gonna
why
be
you give me
okay.
lupus, huh?"
She's gonna be.
Oh,
okay.
she's doing fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, I really can't tell you. They're all different. I'm so grateful, as far as I know. So my kids have been grown. They never had a fuss.
Yeah.
They are inheriting our long-time lake place together.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't do that. And since their mothers died, we haven't been able to do it because of COVID the last couple of years. I like to go in the bedroom, get on the bed with them, just the 3 of them, and we just talk.
Y'all, you did very well raising your 3 kids.
Well, I give
And that-
Velma and God credit for
It
that.
was Dee and I talking, and she said he's probably gonna say Kenna.
Well, I got 4, you know, I can't, you know, Kenneth's just been a jewel, and it doesn't take away from Dennis either. You know, I've been fortunate with Dennis that I know enough medicine, not near what he does, but I can communicate with him.
Yeah.
And I could have driven a wedge between us because he didn't care for my tractors. He was, before computers, he was always reading a book. And so, no, Katie's probably more like me in some ways. Dee's a lot like me. She would have been a great pharmacist because that's detail. I tried to get both wives. I don't know how to cook. But as I've gotten older, I thought, well, I'll learn to cook a few things. But y'all use a dash or a pinch, or I say, pharmacists don't know about dashes and pinches. Is it a quarter of a teaspoon? Is it a third? Is it tablespoonful of milk? But no, hey, let me tell you, Stephanie, no credit to Joe. I've had a great life, and I give God all the credit.
Absolutely.
I've told my kids, I tell everybody I will, whatever brain power God gave you, use it, but don't get the big head about it, because you didn't have a thing to do with it. Your brother is a great athlete. Scott's a great athlete.
Yeah.
Joe is a total spastic. I couldn't throw a ball out that way if I had to, probably. But My only talent was driving a tractor, and I'm having a harder time with that now. But I love it.
Well, I'm grateful for you.
I don't like
You've
the
been
spotlight
such a
on me.
blessing to me in my life and
Well,
encouragement.
that gets mutual,
and,
you know.
and I thank you for all you've done for this festival all these years. As
We
well in our
this is
community.
a great community.
Yeah.
This is a great. I would tell people be just as faithful to your church as you are to this festival. But this is wonderful for this community.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It is.
I mean, 90,000 people may be here one of our days.
Yeah.
And praise the Lord, we've never had any major problems.
I know.
We had an electric line fall out there that could have electrocuted some people, and it fell on the bare ground, and the grounds were full of people. And Tico had it up going in no time. Stephanie, when I was on the school board, I spoke too much first. I love to speak. I'm not forward anymore. Too old for that. But I love doing it, and I always try to relate to the audience. But I would say to kids, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, and I said, I don't know if it's good English or not, but God don't make no joke.
That's
We all got talents. And then I would say, it'd be a dull world for everybody was a pharmacist.
Oh my goodness.
And I would
If
say
everybody was Stephanie, we'd drive each
Yeah.
other crazy.
and I'd say that wonderful new truck I'm driving, if I go out there and it won't crank and jumping it off won't crank, I gotta go get somebody. You know, you can't do anything in the world now unless you know computers. Well, we old people, we don't know them, but this one know. And you know what? I don't even want to. I guess that's the problem.
Hey,
I love you,
you've
Steph.
done your part. I
You
love
go,
you.
you know,
Oh my God.
you know, I look
Thank you.
at people your age. I try to always. I hate that term. I'm honest. That's what I'm about to say. Does that mean you lie some of the time? Festival's gonna be in good hands. There was a time that Dub and I and some others were saying, hey, we gotta really be careful here who we bring on. Because like it or not, y'all are gonna determine what this festival is. Let's hope we still respect law and order, that God gives peace to this country. This nation's got to come back to God.
Yes,
You can't do it without God.
that's right. That's right.
But you know, we're the only feet God's got on this earth.
Yep. And He wants us to go and tell.
You know,
That's what we got, and that's what we're doing right here. Is we're telling people to go get Jesus and come to the festival.
Yeah, right. I did a lot of business in my life, and there was one thing that I was really sure was right at the time. I would ask God to open the door. I bought a grove one time that your brother told me about, and I went to pay the man some of it, and it was going to freeze the next morning. And we were riding the lectern, and I said, Bubba, you reckon we've lost our mind? It worked out.
Yeah.
Thank you, dear.
Well, thank you.
Hey, I love
and
you.
thank y'all. I love you.
This girl's
so
like my
much.
younger.
Aw.
Thanks, Dad.